So I'm laying here and I was remembering something. I remember a lot of things. A lot of things. However, this was specific. Now, I know that my mother is not alive anymore, to confirm nor deny anything that I say, so, you know, whatever. Doesn't really bother. I don't really care if people believe me or not. It doesn't matter to me. I know what went on and what was said and who said it and who didn't and all kinds of shit. I remember it all. Like, it can be kind of a double-edged sword, I would say, to have a memory like mine. Anyway, so I know that a lot of people, really, even if you've stayed away from things like tarot card readings and things like that, a lot of people know about, starseeds, chosen ones, and, you know, all of this, people being sacrificed and all this kind of shit, like your parents knowing who you were, or what you were, I should say, and still throwing you to the wolves. My mother did a lot of that. I don't think she knew what to do with me. There wasn't anywhere to, because of the Christian background that my mother, you know, was conveniently gung-ho about. See, the thing about my mom, she would be, you know, hey, stop, please. She would be like balls out, all for God, you know, just like pedal to the metal, God, 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 you know, Jesus specifically. Stop, please. Until it didn't serve her. Or until, you know, she was angry or whatever the fuck. It was on her terms. Her relationship with God was on her terms. I never admired that about her. I didn't feel safe with her because of that. Because if God wasn't sacred, then how could anything be sacred, you know? My mother was very misguided. In a lot of ways, spiritually, she was a very misguided person. She operated in a lot of fear, and I mean, I love her. I'm not saying anything bad about her. I'm simply telling the truth and how her truth affected me. She very much had the religious spirit on her. Not always, but a lot of the time. And the hypocrisy was an issue. Always. It was always a problem. So, there were a couple of things that happened to me when I was very young. No, they didn't happen necessarily, but I remember, you know, anyway. One of them was, I remember I was about, sorry, I know the bag makes this terrible crinkling noise. One of them, I was about, a lot happened between the ages of like 6 and 10 years old for me. So, this time I was approximately, 8 years old. Somewhere around there. Maybe a little older, maybe a little younger. It doesn't really matter. But I went to my mother and I said to her, I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. I said to her, Mom, I don't want to have a human body. I just want to be a spirit floating out in space. You imagine your 8-year-old kid saying this to you, and like, you know, this was in the early 80s when, you know, I mean, there's always some spiritual movement or other, but like my mom, you know, anything that wasn't of the Bible was demonic, was satanic. And so, so it was hard to navigate spirituality with her. I remember telling her, and I remember her asking me why I wanted this you know, hypothetical spirit life, you know, like not on Earth, in other words. And I told her, you know, because human bodies are so limited. That's what I said. 8 years old. And I remember her just looking at me like, what the fuck? Like, where did you come from? I didn't realize for most of my life how different I was. And I mean, I think that the biggest reason I didn't want to see how unique I was because am, whatever. Whatever time, past, present, future, tense on that fits you. Whatever resonates. But I must have been a really different kid for my mother to have. The thing that not haunts me, but the thing that kind of haunts me about her is that she knew who I was. She knew who I was, and she knew what I was doing. She knew what I was. She knew. And she sacrificed me multiple times. I don't think that she really had any of her own motives necessarily. I knew her very well. But my mother was at times in her life possessed. And I mean that, like possessed. And I know that people who are not very spiritual, or perhaps they just don't believe in the structure of, you know, angels and demons structure, you know, that they'll balk at that. And the thing is that you just can't get around it. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you know, somebody who hates the color blue is not like, I mean, do you go around like hating the sky? I mean, I don't know. But it's ridiculous. It's like blaming gravity for being gravity or something. I don't know. It's like I really couldn't blame her because most of her life she was at the beck and call, and really like you know, spirits were playing with her left and right. She didn't know. My mom didn't know half of what was going on. I know she didn't. And because of the whole Christian structure to her life and to mine, anything that, like I said, anything that wasn't of the Bible was to be feared. Not feared, but like, what is the word? Rejected at all costs. Rejected completely. I mean, I remember I picked up a deck of tarot cards when I was 17 years old. And I just started reading for people. I mean, I just did. I didn't think about it. I didn't know about the verse in the Bible about divination and things like that. And, you know, it's like, divination's like anything else. Oh. Excuse me. I mean, first and foremost, we're asked, you know, as followers of Christ, not to do it. Oh. Excuse me. Pardon me. And to a huge extent, I honor that. And then also, I didn't know about that at the time. I don't think I knew about it. I don't think I knew about it until my mother pointed it out to me. I didn't know about that verse in the Bible about divination, things like that. I was really just a 17-year-old girl, you know, trying to maneuver my strange life. I wasn't trying to divine anything. I was simply channeling, or whatever you want to call it, the messages that were coming through to me. I wasn't communing with anything. I've never prayed to anything or anyone but Christ and God. You know, the Most High God. And so, I didn't dabble in occult things. I did some bindings when I was a child, but then I was not just a child, but like a young girl. But then Christians are taught to bind things. So like that, I was doing that out of my Christian knowledge. But a lot of what I've learned about spirituality has been from Christian teachings, a lot of it. Not all of it, of course. But because my mother didn't know a lot of things, there were a lot of things she didn't know. And, really knowledge is power. And so when you don't have that knowledge, when you don't know, I don't know if that's like better or worse. And when you don't know, you're at the whim, you're at the whim of these things. These entities, they really can just come in and kind of wipe you out and make you fearful and all kinds of shit. And so when you're not, I hate hangnails. When you're not equipped to deal with those things and you don't know how, and first of all, she wasn't, she didn't really have the, she had the wherewithal, but she didn't have she had the skill, but she didn't have the knowledge, and she didn't have the, she wasn't standing in her power. 1123 on the clock when I said that. So, it scared her, and she was honest with me about, why she didn't, because my mom was an oracle. There's no doubt in my mind about my mother knew everything about every fucking thing. I mean, she knew about your friends when I would bring friends home, to hang out. It was a guy, a girl, it didn't matter. And I'd say, this is my new friend, whatever. She'd say, I know about that, that's not a good friend for you to have. Or she would say, that is a good friend. Rarely did she tell me I had good friends, but she was always fucking right. Always right. And it was like to the point of it annoyed me to the nth degree, because a lot of the time I would like these people, but she was always right about them. But my mother was taught to be afraid of her gifts and not to use them, and not to expand on them, not to take them seriously. Of course, she had been taught not to take them seriously because, a lot of people are called crazy and all kinds of other really dismissive bullshit by the people who are either also afraid of their gifts or afraid of the people around them who have gifts. And it's like, it's just a big fear factory then. But my mother was, able to instill in me a lot of that fear, and a lot of that comes from the religious spirit. That, if you step out of the bounds, that you're not going to be protected by God, that this and the other thing. And to some extent, that's true. You do want to be loyal and humble to your creator, of course. But there's so much more to it than that, and it's so much less, like, the spiritual world is less structured than we're led to believe it really is. But I remember, like, I would come to my mother and say things and tell her things, and I knew she knew what I was talking about. She wanted to help me. I know that she did. And at the same time, she didn't really know how. And she also, like I said, she was afraid. She was afraid of me. She was not afraid of me, like I was going to do something to her, but like afraid of what I could do. She was afraid of what she could do. She was afraid of it all. And in a lot of ways, that shaped a lot of my life for years. I mean, my life would have been very different if my mother had taken me seriously, or like, if she had, what is the word I'm looking for? If she had nurtured the things that she knew were present in me rather than, make me fearful. I remember I put down, there's people on the hill over there. I put down tarot cards because, I mean, personally, it was getting kind of weird for me. Because I had all kinds of people coming to me for readings. And I'm only 17, you know, like, I mean, I'm reading about, like, people's marriages and all kinds of weird shit going on. And, like, you know, I mean, I barely had my first boyfriend by then. So, you know, it was all very, like, strange for me, to know about all these things. And, like, anyway, in other people's lives, like, really personal stuff. So I put them down, and I also put them down because, you know, I was told that they're demonic, you know, that I'm going to, you know, somehow bring upon myself, excuse me, some horrible, you know, situation, or, bring upon myself, like, some, anyway, just something that wasn't good, you know, and that somehow would be my fault because I had opened this door to this, you know, demonic stuff. And, like, that's just not the truth of it. Nothing is really in and of itself evil. Not really. It's really about the intention of the heart behind it. And it's not even the mind, it's really the heart. Because an evil person, and there are evil people, very evil people, they can do things, you know, that they mean mentally to be evil, but they don't have the emotion behind it. So, you know, therefore their intention isn't it doesn't make manifest because of the lack of intention in the emotion. And I think that was very much the case with my mother. She wasn't evil, but because she hadn't chosen one side or the other, and she hadn't integrated her shadow, like, not at all. My mom did not do shadow work. I don't think we ever even discussed it, like, ever. But because of that, because of her lack of shadow work and her lack of integrating the shadows, that's what makes us dangerous. Any of us. That's what makes gifts dangerous. That's what makes things either demonic or angelic. Is not just the intention and the emotion, the heartfelt intention behind it, but how much we've integrated our shadow. The more you integrate your shadow, shadows, plural, whatever, the more distinctly divine you become. And that's what really gives you the shield, so to speak, to not be attacked. And it's like things can still attack you, of course, but they don't get very far. Because they just simply can't. So, really, like, the best way I've found to protect yourself, I mean, of course, there is power in the name of Jesus. Like, I can't deny that. I don't think anybody can really deny that. I mean, nobody in their right mind, anyway. Like, you really can't deny that. And if you are denying that, like, you're pretty delusional. There is a power in it's not a name. Jesus Christ, it's not a name. It's a title. But there's power in it that there just isn't anywhere else. Like, I've looked, I've searched, I've read, you know, all kinds of stuff. But no, there just isn't. I got attacked by some fucking, like, I don't know that it was evil, but it was like, sorry, I'm rummaging around again. But it wasn't nice either. It wasn't like, anyway, it happened not too long ago, and I actually was able to find the person who it belonged to. They have a, what do you call it, like an incubus or succubus spirit. Like, those things are real, like 100%. Most people know that. Most people have even had children, like young children, you know, kids that have zero, sexual experience with anything, and it tends to come around when you're young still. Although they do attack when you're older too. But this most recent thing came to me, and it It was, I mean, it was very dark in the dream. I'm saying it like that's a question. I don't know that it was a dream. But, and I don't have sleep paralysis. I don't deal with that anymore. But this thing, it was like this Resident Evil looking thing. Like there's like in the movie, I think it's the first movie, there are these creatures that crawl on the ceiling and they have these really long tongues. It kind of looked like a Venom character. Like if you've seen that movie Venom, I'm trying to think of like something that's, oh, excuse me, that's like contemporary, something that's like newer. Because I think those Resident Evil movies are pretty old. Oh, excuse me. But that's what this thing looked like, and like Venom, kind of. But it was trying to get on top of me and have sex with me, or rape me, basically. And I felt it, and I couldn't see it. I could only see the outline of it against the dark background. And I actually asked it, "Who are you?" I usually don't talk to things like that. Like I don't think I've ever asked a demon who are you? Never. I don't think I've ever asked that. But this time I did. And it didn't answer me, but it stopped in its tracks. Like it didn't want to continue what it was doing. And it was spitting something on my mouth. Like from its mouth. Like spitting on me. Not like directly like spitting, like hogging leeches on me, but like while it was like next or like close to me, like breathing on me, it was like spitting some kind of something on my mouth. And but I was still able to say, I remember I said, "In the name of Jesus," and it woke me up there and here, like in the dream world and here in this realm too. I woke up and I remember I said it, and I said it out loud. Like I heard myself. That's what woke me up out of the dream. That's what woke me up. And then I met the person who this thing belongs to. Like I know that it's this person. Like I know. And I don't know how to say that I know, but I just know. This thing belongs to this person. And once I got to have like a conversation with this person, it was definitely belonged to this person. Hey, stop, yeah. Stop, please. It definitely belonged to this person. And it was uncanny that I met this person. I've been hearing about this person, and I had been hearing about this person in tarot card readings for almost a year. I mean, really. And then all of a sudden, there they are, like in front of me, like in the flesh, like a real person. It was trippy. Like, it still kind of boggles my mind, like how that's possible, but it is. And you know, through, like I said, through conversation with this person, I was able to find out some of the things about, like, what this person knows and what this person believes and what this person has, like, had experiences with, and etc., etc. And so, in having, like, a detailed conversation with this person, I was able to, like, backtrack, like, kind of reverse engineer some of the things that had been happening. And it's like, what? I cannot. Like, I really, like, the strangeness of it is still so weird. Do you need some water? Do you need some water? But, so, you know, but I've had people tell me all kinds of things. But, you know, mostly those people are operating under the religious spirit, so I don't really trust them, because they don't even know what they're dealing with. Like, they have no idea. It's very odd to me how, and these people should know, you know, just like my mother should have known. And I think that there's some part of them that does, but because they're operating under, you know, these religious spirits that do keep people, like, what is the word, bound and enslaved to these ideas that just aren't even true. They're just not true. That's what makes those people dangerous. And that's what keeps them from giving. Come on, Bubba's, have some water. That's what keeps them. Oops. Have some water, Bubba's. That's what keeps them from. There you go, Mama. There you go. There you go, Bubba's. Have some water. Have some water, Mama. Here. That's part of what keeps them from giving the information that they're supposed to be passing along to other people. I mean, it's like, here. There we go. Good girl. Build your chest up, yes? Yeah. Let's help your mouth a little bit, lick your lips. It's because there are other people. There's another person just recently in my life, in the last couple years, who I know I was supposed to learn from. And this person just didn't want to do their job, and I was really frustrated with them for a long time. And then I started to realize that this person was just another puppet, really, for the enemy. And, you know, although, you know, this person's very deeply spiritual and all this other kind of thing, it still was so thoroughly attached to him that I couldn't get past it. I mean, you know, it's only the person who you can really only heal people that want to receive healing. So it does make it a little bit difficult for us to help one another when the other party is not open to it. You know, it's like an addict, kind of, you know, like, you can only help an addict if they want to be helped, you know, kind of thing. And that's very much what I've experienced is, you know, when you're trying to get information or help from somebody and they see it one way and only that way, they will not see anything else. And I mean, when you're dealing with the religious spirit, when you're dealing with people who say, you know, oh, that's this or that's that, and some things they're right about, of course, but when there's zero investigation into anything other than the structure that's already set up, it becomes dangerous. It becomes like, yeah, stop. It becomes a spiritual trap, not just for the person who has been attacked by the spirit, but also for the people around that person who are meant to fulfill their soul contracts. So, you know, religious spirits of any kind, really, the negative ones, I guess I should say, they can affect us by by slowing down, if not preventing us from fulfilling those soul contracts, either with other people or just things that we're supposed to do on this planet. But it can stunt your growth. You know, it really can stunt not just your growth, but the growth of those around you. So to keep ourselves free is not just for us, it's for everyone around us as well. It's very important. Excuse me. That we keep ourselves free from any kind of spiritual attachment, that's negative, that's controlling, that's narcissistic in its paradigm or at all, that's parasitic in nature. All of those are really, they're dangerous, not just for us personally, but like for the people, for our families, our friends, people around us, coworkers, everybody. And I've seen a lot of this. There have been, I like really want to play with my bubbles right now. I don't know why. I got these bubbles today and I like really want to play with them. There have been instances of, that I've witnessed myself that I really couldn't prove it to anyone. That's, you know, but, oh wow. But I know what happened. Just not too long ago, I went to church, and the whole message, I mean, what is that? There were three, what is that? I guess it's just that. It looks like it's reflecting off of something. Anyway, there were 3 speakers in the church that day. 3. And I would say pretty much everybody in that church knows that I don't have a house, that, you know, they know my circumstances, they know my situation. And, not one of those people said anything, did anything, and it was, it was all 3 speakers were talking about, like, ministering to people who have less than you. And that was what the whole sermon was about. And yet, not one person in that church said anything to me about anything. Like, hey, do you want some lunch? Or, like, you know, I have, like, I have a loaf of white bread and a jar of peanut butter and a jar of jelly. Do you want a PBJ? You know, nothing. Nothing. And it's not that I go to church expecting anything. That's not my point. But the point is that when the people in the church, or whomever you're going to, cannot even listen to their own rules, won't even be subject to the will of God in their own structure, that's dangerous. And frankly, anything that is put before God, whether it's your work, I mean, anything that you idolize, anything, it could be your marriage, it could be, oh, God bless me, it could be your dog, it could be money, it could be your job, it could be your kids. I mean, there are a lot of idols in this world. It could be, you know, could be a lot of things. Oh, God bless me. It could be religion. I know that sounds crazy, but if you put religion before God, that's an issue. That's a problem. 33:11 on the clock when I said that. It's a problem. Anything you put before God is going to be a problem. It's going to be a weakness. It's going to be a chink in your armor, so to speak. And, God bless me. Where all the sneezing's coming from. It's been happening a lot lately where I'm fine and then I just start sneezing out of nowhere. Like, it used to happen to me when I was a kid. Every morning when I woke up, I would sneeze no less than 15 times. That was like one of the running jokes. It was 15 sneezes, and I wasn't, you know, if I hadn't sneezed 15 times yet, I wasn't fully awake. But, but these things are important, you know, to understand the dynamics of how some of these things work and how spiritual law works in our world. I mean, you know, in the 3D world is what I mean. It's essential to understand these things, because if you're not clear on how some of these things work, like, you're basically just cannon fodder. Like, you're just going to get in the way. And frankly, it's like, if you are not like an OG gangster out here on these spiritual streets, like, I suggest you go back home, because shit is real and you will get wrecked. Like, it is not it is not any kind of joke. even somebody who's like a bad gossip, can really like hurt other people, energetically, spiritually. I guess energetically, spiritually, same thing, but mentally, emotionally too. Gosh. Excuse me. Like my throat's being attacked all of a sudden. Weird. But when you're not aware of these things, like, you're really just a liability on the battlefield. And frankly, you could be, really well trained, but unless you're battle tested, like, you're just in the way. And I know that sounds kind of cutthroat, or kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like maybe elitist, but like, that's not how I mean it at all. I mean it because people need to stay the fuck out the way until they know better, like, what they're doing. A lot of people, they come out here and, it's whatever background you might have, whatever spiritual background you might have, is whatever. It doesn't really, the thing is that you have to have a strong spiritual foundation. If you don't, things are going to be a lot harder for you, is really all I can say for sure. Like, a lot harder, because you will get rocked, and you will get rocked more than once, more than 10 times. And if you don't know how to fight, even most people, they talk about, like, putting on the full armor of God. Well, that's wonderful. I'm glad that you know that. And at the same time, you can put on your full armor, your helmet of salvation, your breastplate of righteousness, shod your feet in the gospel of the preparation of peace, gird your loins about in truth, have a shield of faith with which you are able to quench all the fiery darts of your enemies and adversaries. And also, what most people forget about with the armor of God is the sword. So if you don't know the word of God, or you don't, like, it's not just the Bible. That's not the only word of God. But if you don't, it's very symbolic. It's literal, but it's also symbolic. Is if you do not know how to walk in your power and stand by your, and stand in your truth, it makes you a target. And it doesn't just make you a target. Like, people have fun with that. People like fucking with those people that don't have a strong foundation. So, like, and that's a lot of what Christianity and things like that taught me was, excuse me, was being able to stand in my power and stand, in the power of God through Christ. But being able to walk in that power myself, and being able to banish things and deal with things that would just absolutely wreck most people. And, like, most people would get attacked by those things and have attachments for the most of their life from that. And that's no joke. Attachments are no joke. Like, that shit wrecks people all the time. So, it is 100% worth it to have a very strong spiritual foundation. You must. I literally, I built my house on the rock, with God. That's what I did. That was what I knew. That was what I was taught. And it's worked for me across the board, like, everywhere. It works all the time. But I know that, there are a lot of my Christian brothers and sisters that I do not agree with. I don't even like those people. Like, I love them, like I love everybody, but wow, they don't make it easy to love them. And it becomes challenging to fit in anywhere when, like, my more spiritual friends, who are, like, more new age, kind of like witch or you know, that go like witchy kind of stuff, they don't buy the God thing because that's not what they know. And then, you know, but my Christian friends in my life have been equally unaccepting of me because I understand things that are outside of Christianity. And it's not because I ever really wanted to. You don't understand, like, I didn't go seek out occult knowledge. I didn't go seek out, and all occult means is hidden. It doesn't mean anything more than that. It doesn't mean that it's demonic or satanic or any of that. It just simply means that that knowledge was hidden. Or has been hidden. But, you know, with the advent of, like, YouTube and all this different stuff, like, it's a lot harder to hide things. However, you know, I get the same attitude, that same spirit, religious spirit, from Christians who believe Christianity is the only way, and that's the only way, and that's it, and they're right, and everybody else is wrong, and that's it. It's the same spirit I get. Although people who are Christian would say that it's, you know, it's the Holy Spirit. I'm like, that's not the Holy Spirit. That's just not. But, I mean, anything I've ever heard, you know, the Holy Spirit described as, that's not it. But the same spirit of intolerance, unaccepting, judgmental, and all of that is the same spirit that I found amongst the New Age people who tell me I'm bullshit because I believe in Christ and because Christ is my ascended master. Like, what? It's the same spirit. I'm telling you, it feels the same. It acts the same, says the same fucking words. Everything. It's uncanny. It's weird. But because those two groups of people rarely speak to one another, they wouldn't know that. But from my perspective, I know that. I know that that's true because of the experiences I've had with both those groups of people. And even like with atheists, it's the same spirit. And which I know sounds crazy because, well, it doesn't sound crazy, but I know that it sounds weird because you would think like, the religious spirit and a spirit of an atheist would be different. No, it's not. It's that same, my way or the highway. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm saying you're delusional. I'm fixed and you're broken. Kind of like that whole, and there's an ego to it, definitely, too. There's like an aspect of ego to it. Basically, when we're dealing with anything that is deceptive, it's part of the matrix. That's a really easy, rule of thumb to use. If it's deceitful, it's of the matrix every time. Anything that is deceitful is of the matrix. And I don't mean demonic, because there's some shit that, that's straight up demonic, but it's really not very deceitful. It's really not masquerading as anything other than what it is. But deceit requires agreement, and this is another key to things. I got a lot of keys. Lies, and I've said this before on this channel. I've said this to many people. Pretty much anybody who will listen. Lies are one thing. I can lie to you all day long. If you're willing to listen. I could lie, I could lie to myself all day long. I could lie about a lot of things. But deception requires agreement. It's a kind of spiritual contract that we form and then agree or don't agree to with others. We can do it with spirits. We can do it with other people. We can do it within ourselves. There's a lot of different ways to be deceived. But, when talking about deception with other people, it requires agreement. You have to be in agreement. If you are not, then you are not deceived. By definition, deceit requires agreement. of 2 or more parties. And like self-deception, you have to agree to your own lies for them to become deception. Until you agree to that deception, it remains a lie, or the other person's lie, or whatever. But until it's agreed upon, it's a null and void spiritual contract. It requires agreement to become deception. A lie on its own is just a lie. With that agreement, it becomes deception. There are a lot of spiritual laws like that most people seem to be very unaware of. And not just unaware of, but like they're walking and talking and operating in this spiritual world. And they're walking and talking and operating in their quantum field. And yet they seem completely oblivious to how it works. Or how to maneuver through it and how to make it work for them. I don't really understand all that, but I mean, I guess it's choice, because what we do all have for certain is agency. And that works both ways with things. Nothing demonic can force your hand. You have to choose. You have to make a choice. Now, can you be influenced and manipulated? Of course you can. But, like, that's also your choice, to be influenced and manipulated. I didn't always think it was mine. But, like, I have to take accountability for things and say, yeah, it was. I mean, not every time. But more than I care to, more than I ever cared to admit, was really my responsibility as much as it was the other person. So, when you understand some of the basic laws of, like, how you're of how you're operating in the world, you'll start to see, like, patterns of things. And perhaps your parents or parent, maybe you only had one like me, sacrificed you too. I don't know. Probably. If you're a chosen one, they probably did. My mom knew full well what I was, and what I needed, and she just, I think that she was scared, like, with herself. I think she saw, like, me being her eldest daughter, like a rinse and repeat of history kind of thing, and she didn't want that for me, so she tried to keep it from happening, and in doing so, it made my life a lot harder than it needed to be. But there's a reason why I was oppressed for so long. Oppressed, suppressed, all of it, for a very long time. Even though I knew the truth, I don't think I knew the whole, I didn't fully grasp it all yet, though. For many years I didn't understand as much as I know now, of course. Hindsight is 20/20. But, being the temporal creatures that we are, of course, hindsight tends to be 20/20. It doesn't always, but it tends to be, for most people. But, whether you were sacrificed by your parents or your friends or whatever happened for you, not to you, but whatever has occurred in your life, you're right on time. You're not early. You're not late. You didn't miss anything. You're right where you should be. Things are unfolding exactly to God's plan. And, I know that sounds, especially if you've got horrible things going on in your life or have had horrible things going on in your life. I know that seems so, like, fucking useless to even think that, let alone actually try to believe it. Let alone take the next step, which is to know it. But it's the truth all the same. We don't want to believe that, or I haven't wanted to believe that in my life, because terrible things had happened, and it didn't make sense to me how God could have known about those things and allowed them to happen. And the truth is, we can't understand everything about why God operates the way that he does. It never says. The Bible never says. God never said. Nobody ever said that because we believe in God, or believe because we're, because we're guided by the divine, that life would be easy for us, or even easier. In fact, it'd probably be harder, a lot harder. Like a lot harder. And you will be hated by the world in many ways. You also be loved by the world, and not just this world, but the divine, the angelic realm loves you and takes care of you because you choose to walk in the light and not the dark. But I just, I've spent a lot of my time in my life, in this life, feeling like I had missed something, or I hadn't been like on time to an opportunity, or maybe, like whatever it was, maybe I was late, but that feeling left a kind of like FOMO in my life, like fear of missing out. And also, kind of left holes and dents and holes in my self-esteem, like making me feel like maybe I wasn't as on point as I felt like I was, or I thought I was, because I had missed these opportunities. And that's just not the truth of it. The truth of it is I was exactly where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be there. Period. And then that kind of encroaches on the idea of agency and free will, because, excuse me, if things are predestined, how can we have agency? That's all valid. And it's a complex thing to explain. However, this video is already pretty long, and really, I just got on here to say that no matter what's happened in your life, with you, to you, for you, whatever, it's all been for a reason. And just because we as human beings fail in our insight to understand what that reason is, it doesn't mean that it's not there. I mean, there are a lot of things that people don't understand, but they happen all the same. I mean, a young child doesn't understand about, being born and all of that, but it happens every day all the same. So, I mean, a baby doesn't know how all of that's working. It just does it, so just because we fail to understand the reason doesn't mean that there isn't one. But there's always a reason why we are where we are, and we are where we're supposed to be, all of us. And I know that it's mind-boggling to even to say it, let alone, that I actually believe that. But so many downloads come in, like, as I'm speaking. But that can be a really hard pill to swallow sometimes, especially when things are hard, especially when things are awful. And it's still true. So I don't know who needed to hear this tonight. No idea. But I hope it helps. And if no one's told you yet today that they love you, I love you. And you're more powerful, more precious, and you have more purpose in your life than perhaps you could possibly imagine. I don't know, maybe you do know, maybe you don't. But if you don't, I'm here to tell you. So, love, blessings, and compassion to everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hitting the like button. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing the video. And, leave a comment if it resonates with you. A simple thumbs up in the comment section is great. Just remember, you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. It's our greatest commandment.